Good morning, my dear students. In today's class, we are going to start a new chapter called as an electrostatics. And the topics which I'm going to cover in today's class will be the basics of charge, Coulomb's law, electric field due to point charge, and electric lines of force. Prior to this, hope if you can recollect, you had already the gravitation chapter being taught by your teacher. Then, so what all the gravitational field strength due to like a point mass, due to wire, due to long rod, due to ring, due to large sheet, thin sheet, due to solid sphere, due to thin shell. Similarly, the gravitational potential, all these things will get repeated here. The same methodology what we did in gravitation, the similar ideas we are going to apply again here. So what I suggest is like, at least after class, you go and revise once the gravitation. Only E and E bar due to various bodies in gravitation. Come back tomorrow, what I'm going to start the same, the mathematics is what I'm going to apply it. So now what all tomorrow's class we are going to do, it will be like a revision for you of the gravitation. So if you better recollect gravitation, some E due to several bodies, and tomorrow if you come, no, you'll be in a better position. And there's a quite correlation is there between these two chapters. Almost the same ideas will get revolved. There it was point mass, here it will be like a point charge. There it was a mass, here it will be charge. Gravitational constant here, like a electrostatic, so like a permittivity of a medium. Like this, the quantities will come into picture. Okay, let me take you to the screen. Okay, now the chapter name is the electrostatics. Chapter name is electrostatics. Then basics of charge, Coulomb's law, electric field and lines of force. Okay, this one. Okay, let's get into the let me adjust the screen. Yeah. Already pre-written content is there. So let me, because I have this already, I can save a lot of time to avoid scribbling. I'll stop the video. Okay, no. Yeah, let's start with this one. First, ours will be charge. So first, what we'll discuss will be a, yeah, let me use the pink color one. Charge we'll discuss. What is a charge? It's a property of matter. Like how we have a mass, no, like that. It's one of the property of the matter here, no. And basically there are two types of charges will exist: positive charge, negative charge. Fine. After this, the charge will be quantized. So what is it basically? How do we express charge? Integral multiples of charge of electron. What is E? E should be equal to, called as charge of electron, that one. And what is the charge of electron? 1.6 into 10 to the power of minus 19 coulombs. So what is the charge of a body? The charge of a body should be integral multiples of the charge of an electron. Okay, what is Q? Q will be the charge of a body should be integral multiples of charge of the electron. Okay, let me bring the pointer again. Next again. So this is the, everyone knows what is the charge of electron, 1.6 into 10 to the power of minus 9 coulombs. Now, the modern view. What modern view says is like a body is said to be negatively charged if it possesses excess of electrons. That one. If there are 10 electrons are there, then what is the charge of body? 10e. If there are 20 electrons are there, what is the charge of body? 20 negative charge. Then a body is said to be positively charged if it has deficiency of electrons. See, these things is a modern view. 19th century, after 19th century, we have, what do you mean by positive charge and negative charge of a body, that one. But we are going to discuss this in 16th or 15th century. So what is the idea for us? There is something called like a positive charge. I can give a positive charge to a body, or I can give a negative charge to a body. But the 19th century, the modern view, what is said that the efficiency and deficiency of electron, what happen, will produce that positive and negative charge. If a body is having excess of electrons, then it will become negative charged body. If a body is having deficiency of electrons, means if I remove 10 electrons from a body, then it will become positive charge. How much? 10e. If I give some 10 electrons to a body, then it will become minus 10e, the charge of a body. And there's a modern view. So we'll stick on to the basic, the model, like I'll give a positive charge, I'll give negative charge, but nothing called like a giving positive charge. Removing electrons will make the body positively charged. Adding electrons will make body negatively charged. Okay, as usual, again, the charge of a body is given by, will be integral multiples of charge of electron. Charge is conserved for isolated system. This is, I think, when we go to capacitor chapter, very much I'll be using it. Next, again, the charge cannot be created, nor be destroyed. Means charge is conserved is telling. Like charges repel each other, unlike charges attract each other. Positive charges will repel. Positive and negative charge will get attracted. Later in the Coulomb's law, we'll go to stress this particular thing. Next, again, we'll be exclusively focusing more on the idea of the point charge. What do you mean by point charge? Like 10 microcoulombs, I say. What is a point which will not have volume? How you define a point? Geometrically, how you define a point? Where the volume is 0. That one. So what is a point charge which will not have any volume? That one. So it's an idealization. 10 microcoulombs. Point charge doesn't mean that negligible magnitude of charge. Okay, 10 microcoulomb. Look at this, 5 coulomb, 200 coulomb, 6 kilocoulomb, 6 megacoulomb. So point charge, it doesn't mean that it must have very small amount of charge. Need not. The same point charge can have 6 megacoulomb also. I think this is something very high. That one. So point charge, it doesn't mean that negligible magnitude. It can have any of these values. So our primary focus will be more on the point charge. So that's why students are having point charge means they think that negligible magnitude, not like that. Even it can have very high amount of charge, something 6 mega. Mega means how much? 10 to the power of 6. Okay, then again, the test charge. So what is the test charge? Like it's a positive point charge of negligible magnitude. This is an idealization, just to introduce any concept or any particular quantity. No, we take help of this test charge here. It's just like an ideal assumption. So test charge will always be a positive point charge. What about its magnitude will be negligible? What do you mean by negligible? It will not produce field of its own. So these are the primarily, initially we are going to come back to these two. Later on in the, when I come to the electrostatic field strength, there I'll introduce the test charge idea. Okay, next after this, what is our next condition is like, how to produce charge on your body? What should be the mechanism? Is there any mechanism to produce a charge body? The first mechanism is the friction. What do you mean friction? By rubbing the two bodies against each other. So how come we can generate a charge on your body by rubbing each other? Yes, it is possible. Okay, now let's begin with this. So this is a neutral glass rod, thin glass rod. Everyone having idea? Glass rod. Okay, fine. Yeah. Then a silk cloth. This is again a neutral silk cloth. Then what I do is like I'll take the glass rod, I'll rub against the silk cloth. Then what I notice is like the silk cloth will acquire a negative charge and the glass rod will acquire a positive charge. Magnitudes will be same. What is the magnitude? Magnitude will be same. How much of negative charge was present on the silk cloth? The same amount of charge is present on the glass rod also. Okay, next question comes. So how it is possible by rubbing two bodies, charge is produced? Okay, so there is a one mechanism is there. Then, so means what actually happened here? The silk cloth is having excess of electrons. Let's have the modern view. So initially both are neutral. So when you rub the glass rod against the silk cloth, what conditions arises like? The electrons from the glass rod will go and settle on the silk cloth, will jump onto the silk cloth. Since the glass rod has lost electrons, so it will acquire positive charge. And the silk cloth, it has gained electrons, so it will acquire negative charge. Why can't be converse? Means why can't this be positive? Why can't this be negative? Why only in this way? As we have a specific reason. So when we do, when I rub glass rod against the silk cloth, what actually happens is like, I'll be doing mechanical work. I have to spend some energy. I have to spend my mechanical energy. Where do this mechanical energy go? Convert into heat. Convert into heat. This heat generated, if it is equal to greater than the work function of material, then that particular electrons gain energy from this heat. And when that energy of electron becomes greater than work function of that particular material of a body, then they will jump, they come out of that material of a body. And where do they'll settle on the silk cloth? Okay, but our primary question was like, why the silk cloth is having negative charge and why the glass rod is having positive charge? Why can't be either way? Let the silk cloth be positive charge and why can't the glass rod be negative charge? Yes, I do have this one. So when I check the work function of the glass rod is less than that of silk cloth. There's the primary reason. So what is the work function? Means when do electrons will get ejected from a body? When the energy of electron is greater than work function, that particular electron weapon will get ejected from the material of a body. Means will jump out of the material of the body. So I'll write that data. This is called like a work function. Let me take another pen. Let's be thicker one. Yeah, this will be fine. When energy of electron becomes greater than work function, the electrons will get ejected from the material. Ejected means they will leave that particular surface of material. They come out, they'll get free from that material. So this was the work function. Okay, now here, let me go back to the point. Now the work function of the glass rod is in fact will be less than that of the silk cloth. So when I rub the glass rod against the silk cloth, what actually happens is like the heat will be generated. This heat will be absorbed by the material of the silk cloth and also that of the glass rod. Since the work function of the glass rod is less than that of silk cloth, so then what will happen? The electrons from the glass rod will jump onto the silk cloth. So in the meanwhile, so the silk cloth will gain a negative charge. And what about the glass rod? It will gain a positive charge. Means it has lost electrons to silk cloth. So the deficiency of electrons will make positive charge. And the silk cloth has gained electron. The efficiency of electrons will make the silk cloth to acquire negative charge. So in this way, what will happen? So when a glass rod is rubbed against the silk cloth will acquire negative charge, glass rod will acquire positive charge. I think there's a reason. Then what is the basic idea for a friction? For a friction to occur, the bodies must be in contact. I think there's one more very, very important condition. Without contact, how it is possible to rub the bodies against each other? Okay, I think one more, you might have played such things in school. So if you take the okay, you might have played this one. So this is the person. Okay, is or a student, let me call him. So he has applied oil, coconut oil. I think maybe in India, we do apply the coconut oil for our ears. I don't know about other parts of the world. It's maybe it's a part of culture or some health benefits are there by applying coconut oil. Okay, the air will be very oily. Some amount of oil I'll apply it. Then what I do is like I'll take a plastic comb, or you can even take a scale also. That one. So when you take that comb, rub against your just comb your ear. Then, so as you comb your ear, so this plastic comb will gain negative charge, and the airs what will acquire positive charge. What is the reason? The reason for that is that the work function of the airs will be less than that of the comb. I know the practical data, like the work function of the airs will be less than that of the work function of the material of the comb. Usually combs are made up of plastic. Then one way, when I comb my hair, I'll be holding comb, and I'll be moving it. I'll be doing mechanical work. Where do this energy gone? Convert into heat, and that heat will be absorbed by the material of the comb as well as the air. Since the work function of the air is less than that of the comb, the electrons from the air will jump onto the comb, and the airs will lose electrons. So airs will acquire positive charge. Then comb will acquire gain electrons. So excess of electrons are there. So the comb will get negatively charged. Fine. So a body will be, when two bodies are rubbed against each other, which body will acquire positive charge, which will acquire negative charge? I think it depends upon the work function of the material. Okay, there's a basic idea about the how to produce charge by a friction. Okay, let's go back to the, let's take the next one. Next process is called like a induction. Look at this part called as the electrostatic induction. That one. I do have a neutral copper sphere. Copper sphere, everyone knows copper is a metal. Let's say neutral. I'll fix on some insulating stand. There's a stand. And let this be a conducting wire, and let this be a switch, and it will be earthed. So I think earthing in our home, we do earthing, no, to protect all our electrical equipments like that. What happens? A wire I'll connect from copper sphere. Let me have a switch here. Let it be open, and the another end of the wire I'll connect to the earth. I'll bring a positively charged rod. So what is this? This is a positively charged rod. Nearby it, not in contact, just nearby it. So what I noticed that negative charge will be induced here on one surface, and the positive charge will be induced on the other one. Get this one. Here a positive charge will be induced. Here a negative charge will be induced. Why do that? There's a property of like you can say like a conducting material. When you bring a charged body near a neutral conductor, the charged body will induce charge negative and positive. Still, what is the net charge will be zero. How much of positive charge is developed on one part of surface, that much of equal and opposite negative charge will be developed. So still it's electrically neutral only. I wrote it. Neutral copper sphere. So charge gets redistributed here. What all the charges are redistributed. So what do you mean by that positive charge? The electrons which are present here now, they'll get accumulated here. The difference of electrons in this region will be positively charged. The difference of electron in this region will become negatively charged here. This idea. Okay, now I'll close the switch here, the switch. So now the, shall we say, charged, the copper sphere is earthed, then the positive charge will flow to the earth and the negative charge will be retained on the copper sphere. So what is the reason? So why only the positive charge should flow out to the earth? The reason for that, there's a positive charge, no? There'll be interaction. In fact, here, there'll be interaction. There'll be interaction like this. This interaction, what it does, so we know like charges will repel and unlike charges will attract. Let me bring some smaller one. Oh. Okay, yes, there'll be like this. There will be force. The force of interaction will be there. So this electrostatic force, attractive force will not permit these negative charges to flow onto the earth. The unlike charges repel. This positive charge weapon will experience a repulsive force. But by whom? By this positive charge rod. Because unlike charges will get repelled and the like charges will get attracted. This attractive force, what will do, will not permit the negative charge to move onto the earth. The positive charge will experience a repulsive force. So therefore, there's a path is available. So the positive charge will take a path like this. So we'll start flowing onto the ground or flow to the earth. Fine. So it will start flowing. So finally, what do we get? A negative charge is developed here. I'll remove this earthing and I'll remove this charge dot. Finally, what will be left over? A net negative charge is left over. You see this on the sphere. What will be left over? A negative charge will be left over. So like this, I'm able to produce a negatively charged sphere. So what happens in the electrostatic induction? The two bodies will not come in contact. The two bodies will not come in contact. Not come in contact. You say, I think this is very not, it's a N, not. They will not come in contact. The two bodies will not come in contact. Let me make that as a small. Yeah. Okay, fine. So the two bodies will not come in contact with each other. Then in this process, charge is conserved. So is it charge conserved? Next question comes. As electrostatic process will obey the law of conservation of charge principle. So this particular copper sphere, did it lose charge? No. So what is electrostatic induction? Till here is electrostatic induction. Now this was a neutral. Now due to induction weapon, a negative charge is developed here, a positive charge is developed. What is the net charge of this? Still zero. So electrostatic induction obeys law of conservation of charge principles. Charge is not destroyed, not created. Like here you are having a negative charge. So definitely it has gained charge. No, what all that positive charge given to the earth, no? The overall charge of a universe, what happened, should be conserved. So what is the conclusion? The electrostatic induction obeys law of conservation of charge principle. Okay, this is about induction. We'll going to discuss in detail in the Gauss law about this one. I think exclusively some 10 hours, we are going to discuss about electrostatic induction only. What all our, the application part is based on electrostatic induction here. No, The third process what we have is electrostatic conduction. What happens in conduction is like the two bodies are made in contact. And again, here also the conduction process will obey the charge, conservation of charge. So we have here a neutral copper sphere. The copper sphere is initially neutral. Initially, it's not having any charge. Fine. Okay, this is the iron sphere, and this is a copper sphere. Okay, let's get into this one. So what was the charge of iron sphere initially? Plus Q naught. What was the charge of copper sphere? It was electrically neutral. It is electrically neutral. Then what I do is, okay, let me push this iron sphere, let iron sphere come in contact with the copper sphere. Then, so what happened? The charge from iron sphere will flow onto the copper sphere. The charge will flow. The charge what happened will from iron sphere will flow onto the copper sphere. Then what was the charge of iron sphere was Q naught earlier, and this was 0. Finally, what is the charge? QA and QB. So charge has to be conserved. The overall charge of system should be conserved. So here what we are doing, we are just making the bodies to come in contact. This is called like a conduction process. So we are going to discuss numericals on induction and conduction. So what all our syllabus will be? We'll be focusing numericals on the conduction and the electrostatic induction. These are the two chapters what happen. We'll be discussing problems. All our numericals will be related to these two particular processes here, conduction and induction. Okay, this is about the how to produce charges. Okay, let me start with the Coulomb's law, a basic Coulomb's law. Let me take 2 point charges. So what are Q1 and Q2? Strictly Q1 and Q2 are the point charges. Q1 and Q2 are point charges. So what Newton's law is telling? So what Newton's law says that the force of interaction between the charges Q1 and Q2 will be directly proportional to product of the charges. And it is inversely proportional to the square of distance between the point charges. Here the like charges, they'll repel. You can see that repulsive force. And what about the unlike charges? They'll get attracted. Try to notice this one. So like charges, they'll repel each other. Unlike charges, they'll get attracted here. Then, so the further the Coulomb, after doing some experiments, practically some experiments, he came to conclusion that even the medium also plays a role in determining the magnitude of force. Even the medium, it also will play in determining the magnitude of force acting between the point charges. So the effect of medium is expressed by this quantity, 4 pi epsilon naught epsilon r. Okay, what is epsilon? This is called like a permittivity of a medium. And what is epsilon naught? Absolute permittivity of a medium. Here. I think look at the spot. This epsilon naught, I'm going to call it as absolute permittivity of a free space. And what is epsilon r? It's called as a relative permittivity of a medium. Then what is the permittivity of medium means? Epsilon r times of absolute permittivity of a free space. Why we are bringing this? What do you mean by permittivity? Break up this. Permittivity. So this called like a permit, means how much the medium will permit that interaction between the point charges. Different medium will permit the different level. Permit means will the medium will permit the forces to interact. Will medium will permit or not. Suppose like a, what is the epsilon r value for, so like a conductors? Infinity, relative permittivity. Then conductors, if I bring a conducting medium here, the conducting medium will not permit these charges to interact. Getting this one, the conducting medium, in fact, is not going to, the conducting medium here will not permit the charges to interact. So what is it for relative permittivity for conductors? It will be infinity. Substitute here, infinity. 1 by infinity will be 0. So no force of interaction. Like this, the role of medium, okay, how it will influence the interaction force is what that was being expressed by coulombs in this particular formula. So what is this 4 pi epsilon, 4 pi epsilon? It will give us the the role played by the medium in the interaction force between the charges here. Okay, now like I should measure the permittivity of medium. No? What is the reference I'm taking? I'm taking the reference as absolute permittivity of free space. Suppose say if you take any insulator, suppose say there's a material is there whose relative permittivity is how much? Whose relative permittivity is say like a 4. Then what do you mean by that? The permittivity of medium is, of that medium is 4 times that of the free space. The idea will be like this. Suppose some liquid, some oil is having a permittivity of say 3.2. What do you mean by that? The permittivity of that medium is, the permittivity of that medium is how much? 3.2 times of absolute permittivity. So what is the reference to measure permittivity? The free space will become reference. I think this we are going to discuss more exclusively in capacitor chapter. Timing, just have an idea. Okay, then the value for free space, what is the value of relative permittivity will be 1. When I compare free space with respect to itself, it should be equal to 1. Fine. So this 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught, I do write the value equal to how much? 9 into 10 to the power of 9 it will come. In numericals, I think this particular value is going to help us a lot. Then what is the value of epsilon naught? It is expressed as 8.854 into 10 to the power of minus 12 coulomb square per meter square per Newton. Okay, the units, everything. So like this, the coulomb he has formulated. Okay, what are the some he has put? So this force of interaction directly proportional to product of charges. Force of interaction inversely proportional to square of distance between them. And this force F will act along line joining the point charges. What is this dotted line? Is a line joining the point charges. How do this force of interaction will act? Along line joining the point charges. Along line joining the point charges, this force of interaction will act here. And this force will be a conservative force. What all this force of interaction that is acting? No, it's in fact, it's a conservative force. So these are the some very fundamental features of Coulomb's interactive force. So I'll summarize very first one. This directly proportional to product of charges, inversely proportional to square of distance between them. The force of interaction will be conservative in nature. Then the force will act along line joining the point charges. You see this, how do this F is acting along line joining the point charges? Agree this one? And if say like charges, it will be repulsive. Unlike charges, it will be attractive. And moreover, what are Q1, Q2? They are point charges. I think the 6 cases is what I just summarized, 6 points. These are the primary 6 points related to Coulomb's law. Strictly, the Coulomb's law is applicable only for point charges. even the medium also will play role. That is what expressed here. See, our entire electrostatics revolves around this law only. Okay, next again. What happens if there are 3 point charges? I'll take the 3 point charges. Let me place at the edges of or corners of a triangle of length ABC it is. Then the charge 1 and 2, they'll interact. As they are like charges, so how the interaction force will be? Repulsive force F1 to F21. Are you noticing? F12 and F21. Similarly, what about the charge 1 and 2? Both are positive charge. So then what will be the force of interaction? Will be F13 and this will be F31. It will be like this, F13 and F31. Similarly, what about 2 and 3? 2 and 3 will be again, both are positive charge. So it will be like repulsive in nature. So F23 and F32. Okay, these are the 3 point charges are there. So the force of as all they are like charges. So repulsive force is what I'm showing. Okay, now I want to calculate the total electrostatic force acting on this point charge 1. Total electrostatic force acting on the point charge 1. So there should be the vector sum of these two. So when you are calculating F12, what is the role of this? Means when these two forces are interacting, the presence of this, will it have any influence on F12? The answer is no. Getting this one? So the force of interaction between 1 and 2 is independent of the third point charge. Similarly, the force of interaction between 2, 3, this is independent of this one. Means no in the sense means the F32 is independent of Q1. F32 depends upon B and Q2, Q3, that's all. Let me write the data. Okay, Q1, Q2. What about F? Similarly, F31 is needed, no? F13 equal to F31 equal to KQ1, Q2, and C. The force of interaction, this is, you check this one. The force of interaction between the charges 1 and 2 is independent of Q3. Nowhere Q3 is there in this equation, you see. Similarly, the force of interaction between 2, 3, what all we have, is independent of the Q1. Nowhere Q1 is there in this equation. And similarly, when 1 and 3 are interacting, I should make it 3, no? Similarly, when 1 and 3 are interacting, interacting, the presence of Q2 will not be there. So this Q2 will not have any influence. Okay, getting this one. So this Q3, so there's a basic idea of the force of interaction, that one. There's nothing but, now I want, what was our primary question? The force on the point charge Q1. Yes, it is equal to how much? F13 plus F12, the vector sum of these two. Similarly, the force of interaction between 2 and 1, it just depends on these quantities. In this way, what happens? We can find out the force of interaction or net electrostatic force acting on a charged particle. I think this is a very simple idea, but it's a very powerful. When more than two charged bodies are there, how to calculate the force of interaction? I'll be using this method only. Okay, now the same thing, Coulomb's law. Coulomb's law in vector form. So let's assume that a point charge Q1, positive point charge, and another positive point charge Q2, they are kept in a plane, in XY plane, or in a space, let's assume. So what is the position vector of Q1 given by this one? How much it is? R1 bar. The position vector of Q2 is given by R2 bar. What are R1, R2 bar? They are the position vectors of point charges Q1 and Q2. Then, okay, I want this F12 bar and F21 bar. How to express the same Coulomb's law in vector form? First, let's get the magnitude. What is the magnitude? What is the separation between them? Let it be R. Separation between point charge, let it be R. So what is the magnitude? F12 equal to F21 equal to F12. It's a mutual, no? Mutual repulsive force. So Q1, Q2, 4 pi epsilon naught. Separation between them is R. So therefore R square. How we define the vector R bar? R bar, we define it as R bar equal to R into R cap. It's a R bar is what? The position vector. R1, R1 bar and R2 bar are position vectors of point charge Q1 and Q2. Then the vector form. How F12 is directed? Look at this F12. It is directed along R bar. Look at the arrows. Position vector R bar. It's directed from Q2 to Q1. And F12 bar is also directed along R bar. So therefore, I know magnitude F12. Then I want the direction. Direction is given by R cap. R cap is what? Unit vector. So what is R cap? Unit vector directed along R bar. So what is R cap? R cap is a unit vector directed along R bar. What are R1 bar and R2 bar? R1 bar and R2 bar are position vectors. Position vectors of charges Q1 and Q2. Let me go back to the, let me use the pointer. Come for this one. Then, so this will give the magnitude. The direction of F12 bar is given by R cap. Okay, we have R cap here. So Q1, Q2, 4 pi. So how you define unit vector? A vector is equal to magnitude into unit vector. So how you define unit vector? Vector by magnitude. Yes, here the vector by the magnitude is what will get the unit vector. So F12 is equal to Q1, Q2, 4 pi epsilon naught, R cube, R square into R cube into R bar. Let's come to the vector subtraction. This is R bar, R2 bar. This is R bar. So R2 bar plus R bar minus R1 bar. If you move from tail to 8, it should be positive. If you move from tail to 8, it should be positive. When you move from 8 to tail, it should be negative. So what is R bar equal to? R1 bar minus R2 bar. Okay, let me replace that R bar here. So what is R bar? R1 bar minus R2 bar. So what is R bar? the magnitude of that R1 minus R2 that one. So this is a vector form of Coulomb's law in vector form. So let the point charges be lying in plane or lying on a straight line, or let it be in space. We can take help of this particular form to determine the force experienced by the point charges. Strictly again, Q1, Q2, what they are? Point charges. These are the point charges, not bodies. They may appear big in size, but they are point charges. Okay, let me introduce to the next concept. Electric field strength. Electric field intensity or electric field strength. So what is the basic definition? Electric field strength at a point is defined as force experienced per unit test charge kept at that point. We do have two things, one point charge, other is a test charge. So what is basically a test charge? So I think I'll let me differentiate between what is a test charge, what is a test charge. It will not produce field of its own and will have very negligible amount of charge. Like this will define the test charge. It's ideal. It's like a idealization, nothing called like a practical. It's like a, ideally we are introducing the one called like a test charge. And what is the test charge? Test charge is a point charge. Again, it's a point charge only. What is the symbol for test charge? Q naught will write it. Okay, I'm having a point charge. What is the charge of it? Let it be minus Q. Negatively charged. I kept it here. Let it be fixed here. Then it will produce field around it. So this is one imagination is what a student should develop. For any charged body, surrounding it, it will have some sort of like a sphere of influence, we'll call it. Later, the sphere of influence, we are going to call it as a field, electrostatic field. Then any other external charge, if it is present in this field, the field will exert a force on that one. So therefore, what is this force? Force of interaction between the charges. It's a field force, not a contact force. In mechanics, what happened? We came across the contact force, whereas here what happened? It's a field force. the test charge, this test charge Q naught, and this point charge, they're not in contact, but still what happened? They're exerting force on each other. How it is possible? Because the point charge minus Q, the negative point charge minus Q, it will produce field surrounding it. And any other external charge, if it is present in that field, the field will exert a force. Get it? So a new type of force is what I'm trying to introduce. What is that? It's called like a field force. So the Coulomb's force, the force of interaction between point charges, no, it's not a contact force. What it is, it's a field force. It's a totally different, the forces what we studied in mechanics, like tension, friction, normal contact, all what they are the field, they are the contact forces. This called like a field force. The idea of field is introduced, F-I-E-L-D. So any external charge present in the field of this point charge, the field will exert a force, and because of that, the test charge will experience a force. Let me take two test charges. One I'll keep at a 0.1. The other test charge, let me keep it a 0.2. Let me keep it a 0.2. Then what we notice is like, which will be greater, R1, R2 less than R1, seat. And we know force of interaction is directly proportional to square of distance between point charges. Inversely proportional to square of distance charges. So therefore, F2 should be greater than F1. F2 should be greater than F1. Means this test charge will experience more force than this particular test charge. Then the test charge will have a mass. So if I release it, if I set free to move, because of this force, it will get accelerated. Because of acceleration, it will acquire a velocity. It will undergo displacement. It will undergo displacement. Then we know that let in a given interval of time, both let it undergo a displacement dr. Then what is the work done by the force? How you write the work done? Or we write work done? Work done equal to, let me take a smaller nib. Work done equal to W2 equal to F2 into R, W1 F1 into dr. Now from the idea here, which will be greater? F2 will be greater than F1. Then definitely W2 will be greater than W1. Means where, who is doing work? Means now I'm bringing the idea of the work done. How the work done? Because you say like, okay, the force, these test charges are free to move. They'll experience a force. Due to that force, what will it will accelerate? Okay, now due to acceleration, the test charge will acquire speed. Then it has acquired kinetic energy. From where this kinetic energy has come? Somebody should supply. So who is supplying this kinetic energy to the test charges? The field. What this field? The field does work. For the field to do work, it must possess energy. That energy is what we are going to express. That I'll call electric field strength. Got the idea? So now the field is possessing energy now. And the field, as it is doing work, so if a force is capable of doing work, if an agent is capable of doing work, then it must possess energy. That energy is what we are going to express. We are trying to derive a formula to express that field energy. That's what I'll call electric field intensity or strength. How much the electric field there, or what is the strength of the field? That everything we are just calling as electric field strength. This is the basic idea. I'll put once again. The test charges are free to move. The test charge is having a mass. The test charges will experience a force. You can see here F1 and F2. Because of this force, it will accelerate. Due to acceleration, speed will change. Speed will increase. Due to increase in speed, kinetic energy will increase. From where this increase in kinetic energy for test charges? How kinetic energy is increasing? Yes, the field is what? Supplying energy. So the field must possess energy. The field is doing work. For the agent to do work, it must possess energy. So therefore, that energy of the field is what we are trying to express by a physical quantity called as electric field strength. And what is the definition? It says force experienced per unit. What is the field strength at a given point? I want field strength at this point. What I should do? The force experienced per unit test charge kept at that point. Now, what is the force of interaction? K, Q, Q naught by R square. Q naught get cancels. These two will cancel out. Then what will be left over? KQ by R square. Only these quantities will be left over. So this is the electric field. What is the electric field? KQ by R square. And how do it will be? As I move away from the point charge, the field strength will decrease. Then what is the direction? It's a vector quantity. What is the direction? The direction in which the unit test charge experiences a force, that should be the direction of E bar. Okay, now there's a negative charge and test charge will be always positive. you know that test charge will be always a positive. Then inward action, it will experience force towards left. So what is the direction of electric field here? Should be towards left. If a positive point charge is kept here, if a positive point charge is here, I'll keep a test charge. Test charge should always positive. Test charge should not be negative. There's one very important assumption is what it was being made. The test charge should always be a positive point charge. This is a negative point charge. So let me write what do you mean by test charge. Very, very, very important. The test charge will be a positively charged particle. Test charge should not be negative. It's a convention. In the beginning of electrostatics, starting from the coulombs solvent, the test charge, they assumed it to be positive. So we should follow that convention. It's a convention. Okay, let me come to this one. So now a test charge is kept here. Now this test charge in what direction will experience a force? It will experience a force towards right. Then what is the direction of field? In the direction of the force experienced by the test charge. So the field will be directed towards right. So now we have a certain basic idea that how the direction of E bar to predict. Keep test charge nearby a point charge in what direction the test charge experience a force. That should be the direction of E bar surrounding the point charge. And for a point charge, how the E bar? Proportional to 1 by R square. Got the idea? This one? So like this we are defining. So what should be the unit for this? What should be the unit for test charge? Okay, we should define even the unit also. Yes, anybody? Force per unit charge, no? So the unit for this should be Newton per coulomb. Agreed this? So Newton per coulomb should be the unit. Okay, these are some very important things. Let me highlight it. And what is this? This is a field force, not a contact force. Okay, this is a basic introduction of the electric field due to a point charge. Okay, let me go to the next condition. Okay, next we have a positive point charge. A positive point charge is there. No, this isolated positive point charge. Try to see here. So what I took is an isolated point charge. I want to find out the lines of force. I'm introducing electrical lines of force. Electric lines of force. This will be no. I'll keep test charge here. In what direction will experience force? The test charge will experience force in this direction. Similarly, I'll keep test charge here. The test charge will experience force like this. I'll keep test charge here. It will experience force like this. So how to draw lines of force? How to draw the lines of force? Nothing but the force experienced by the test charge kept at that point. The direction of that force will give the lines of force here. Let me take the pointer. Similarly, I want the due to point charge. So the lines of force will be directed here. let me take the point with this one. So these are the getting the idea. This will be okay. Let me erase this. Yeah. Okay. Now, so if I draw a tangent on the lines of what are lines of force? Once again, they're nothing but the direction in which, like I'll keep a test charge nearby a point charge. In what direction the test charge will experience a force. So all those locals of all those points, if I join, I'll get a line that is called like a lines of force. They are called as like elliptic lines of force. Fine. Okay, now for isolated positive point charge, I do have lines of force. How the lines of force will be radially outward. Are you seeing this? Radially outward. Then, okay, one more thing. I will look at the spacing between them. You can see this. Point A is at a distance RA. What about point B? It is at a distance RB. Then which distance will be more? RB greater than RA or RA will be less than RB? Then according to the formula, E equal to KQ R square. If RA less than RB, then field strength at A should be greater than B. Okay, now after this, look at the spacing between the lines at A and look at B. Where it is more spacing between the lines, the spacing between the lines is more at B than at A. Spacing, I'm asking you to look at this one. The spacing means or directly you can take this, no problem. So where the spacing between the lines of force is more at B. So therefore, what is the conclusion now? As the field strength decreases, the spacing between the lines of force will increase. Able to get this one? So this will help us for us to predict to draw the lines of force. Where the spacing is less, they definitely open the field strength is said to be more. You look at the spacing here. You measure this distance. Which distance will be greater? This distance will be greater than this one. So I can say that no, the field strength at A is greater than B. Means where the spacing between the lines of force is less, there the field strength should be more. This very important thing which will help us to plot the lines of force. So this is what I'm trying to insist here. For a point charge Q, how many lines of force I assume? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. For a point charge 2Q, I should assume 16 lines of force. Any reason for that? Because of this idea. Because the number of lines of force, what I'm going to draw, these are imaginary. Don't think that they're really existing. So why we are bringing this? To express that particular field. To express that particular field open, we are bringing this lines of force. So what are the number of lines of force? They are directly proportional to magnitude of charge. For Q charge, if I assume 8 lines, then for 2Q charge, how many you should assume? 16 lines. No, sir, if a student for Q charge, if I assume 10 lines, for 2Q, you should assume 20 lines. There's nothing called like a number. Not saying number of lines of force equal to. Proportional is what we are writing. You can draw any number. For Q, I'll draw 100 lines of force. For 2Q, you go for 200 lines of force. For 2Q, you go for 200 lines of force. So there's nothing called like the number here. So what we are saying is number of lines of force directly proportional to magnitude of charge. And for negative point charge, we'll see. If I keep a test charge in what direction will experience force towards point charge Q. So therefore, how the lines of force will be directed for isolated negative point charge, the radially inward. So what are the lines of force? How they are? radially outwards. They'll be directed radially outward for isolated positive point charge. Directed radially inwards for a negative isolated point charge. Fine. There's a thing. Okay, let's see the next condition. One more. One point is being stressed for a isolated point charge. The path traced by the test charge is the direction of lines of force. What do you mean by that? I think I'll bring the complete description. I think you are able to see the total. Now, if I release a test charge here, in what direction the test charge will move? Will move in this direction. If I release a test charge here, how the test charge will move? The test charge will move, will get accelerated. And what type of motion? Variable accelerated motion, increasing speed, decreasing acceleration. The test charge is going to describe. And how do the test charge will move along the lines of force only. The test charge will not move like this. How the test charge will move? The test charge will move along the lines of force. Means it will be here, after some time here, after some time it will be here. Okay, now let me put it. So the test charge, if I release here, after some time 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 here. This will be the position of the test charge. It will be keep on moving here. And how it will move? Along the lines of force. Similarly, if you release for the negative point charge, earlier it will be here. Then it will come 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 here. So how the test charge? The test charge again will be moving along the lines of force only. So for isolated point charge, the path traced by the test charge is the direction of lines of force. I think it's correct. Isolated strictly, not for it and mentioned for only, for isolated point charge only. Okay, let's come for this one. How the lines of force, if the two charges, if they interact. Now a positive point charge and there's a negative point charge. So what is the force of interaction between them? What is the force of interaction? The lines of force, they will originate at positive charge and they'll come and terminate at the negative point charge. Similarly here, they'll originate at positive point charge, they'll come and terminate at the negative point charge. So how you are able to draw lines of force? So what is the lines of force? If you draw a tangent to the lines of force, it will give the resultant field due to those point charges. If I draw a tangent here to the lines of force, then what happened? The tangent, what happened? So if you draw a tangent to the lines of force, and what it does, it will give the resultant electric field. Sir, why the direction like this? Okay, let's assume that one. Okay, what about the field at this point? Field at this point. Let me go for the smaller one. The field at this point. So due to positive charge will be like this. Due to negative charge, it will be somewhere like this. How the resultant of these two, since E positive will be greater than E negative. So therefore the resultant will come. So let me show this. This is E positive, E negative. E positive will be greater than E negative. So therefore the resultant will come in this direction. So let's come for this one. E positive will be like this. So the which will be greater, E positive will be greater, so the resultant will be here. So what about here? E positive, E negative. E negative will be greater than E positive. So the resultant will be near to E negative. So in this way, what about here? E positive like this and E negative also in the same direction. I'll add here E negative, E positive. The resultant E negative will be greater than E positive. So the field will be towards left. In this way, I'll get the direction of field at all points surrounding that one. And if I join the locus of all those points, then I'll get the resultant T bar. So therefore, so what are these? These are lines of force. So what I should call them? What I should call them as lines of force everywhere. This word is missing. Already is written, no? Okay, let me take again the pointer. Okay, agreed. No. So this will be the, so if you draw a tangent on the lines of force, what will give? It will give the direction of E bar. How to predict the now the direction of E bar if you know lines of force? How to draw lines of force? Get the resultant E bar and join locus of all those points where the resultant E bar is there, you'll get the lines of force. Both are either way. If you know one, you can get the other thing. No. If I take two equal and opposite point charges, two unlike charges, pointer is there. Yeah. Two unlike charges, I took it. Plus Q minus Q. Then how the lines of force will be given by this one. Now, how many lines of force I took it here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Let me count it. I don't know. I missed number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I took it. Then how many lines of force here? Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So how I should know? The lines of force should be equal in number. For Q charge, how many are there? Okay, I'm not very sure. Let me try. I think I'll give a number better. 1, 2, 3. Okay, 11 are there, not 12, 11. Okay, similarly, let me count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, I'll remove this. This should not be there. I'll remove this one. Okay, 11 point charges, 11 lines of force are there. Now, why I should take in this way? Because already we made a rule, no? The number of lines of force should be proportional to magnitude of point charges. The number of lines of force should be proportional to magnitude of point charges. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Here also, if you count it, they are 11. Now, if I take plus 2Q, then here minus Q. How I should draw the interaction here? So for 2Q charge, I'll assume 16 lines of force. Then for minus Q charge, I should assume 8 lines. Any reason for that? Because the number of lines of force are proportional to the magnitude of charge. For 2Q charge, 16 lines. For Q charge, it should be 8 lines. Getting the idea? So like this, we'll start counting the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Okay, 16 lines of force are there. So here also I'm going to count it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 8. 8 are there. How to draw that one? The lines of force, they'll originate at positive charge. You can see that they'll originate and they should terminate at negative charge. Why not all? No. So how many are there? 8 lines. So some lines of force, I'm showing it. When you're drawing it, you have to take care about the E bar. Again, at E bar here, due to positive charge, like this, due to negative charge, the resultant will be like this. So keeping that in mind, the lines of force has to be drawn. So when you're drawing lines of force, you have to keep in mind the lines of force will be directed along the resultant T bar. If you draw a tangent on the lines of force, it should give the resultant T bar. Keeping that in mind, that will be produced here. If two like charges, okay. If they're unlike charges, the lines of force will be in this direction. Repulsive force. Got the idea? So try to look at this lines of force for unlike charges. Then if two unlike charges of magnitude, say plus 2q and another is plus q. Then again, the number same here. If I assume 16 lines, then here 8 lines of force should come. And the lines of force, I'm showing it in this way. Got the idea? Okay, one more small, very important information. Let me share it. Then I'll come back to this one. If two positive point charges are there in a region, this is a 1. Let me take this is 2. In all the cases, we'll try to see what happens to the field. Next case. Plus 2q charge plus q charge. Similarly, plus 2q charge let me draw a little bit below. This is very fundamental thing which a student must know. Plus 2q charge minus q charge. Now, what is the use of this? Let me use some other color pen. No. So the total separation between them. So let this be A. I think not visible, very thin the nib has become. I'll change it. Yeah, this will be okay. The separation is A. So first, what is the field at this point 1? So due to E1 will be like this. Due to this point charge, due to this point charge, E2 will be like this. So what are E1, E2 equal to? They're of equal magnitude. So therefore, what is the net field at point P will be 0. The net field at point P will be equal to 0. This is in the first case. So two like point charges are there. Exact at the midpoint, what is the resultant field? Will be 0. Then if I bring two unlike charges, this is 1, this is 2. The field here will be E1. And what about the due to negative charge will also be directed in the same direction. So what is the E1 E2 equal to KQ by A square. So the resultant field at point P at the midpoint will be equal to how much? KQ by A square only. It will be non-zero. So what is the total field? E1 plus E2, which will be 2KQ by A square. Now, what about the field? Now, what about the field here? Okay, no, I want between these 2 point charges. Will they be, will field will be 0? What is the condition now? This having a magnitude 2Q, this is Q. So field will be 0. So the distance of separation between them is how much? 2A. Let me pick up a point at a distance X. So what is the resultant field here? E1, this is a point 1, and the here it will be E2. So the resultant field at this point will be E1 minus E2. What is E1? K2Q by 2A minus X whole square. What about T2? KQ by X square. So I want the point where the field will be 0, the position. So there should be equal to 0 is equal to 2KQ by 2A minus X whole square. KQ by X square. So KQ gets cancels. So 2X square. Let me solve it. So 2X square is equal to 2A minus X whole square. Two X square, 4A square plus 2X square minus 4AX. This 2x square get cancels. I'll get expression for X. So what is X is equal to? Okay, come here, no? So we were here, no? So what is the field strength at exactly the point where it will be 0? So I do have 2 charges. So one is of magnitude 2Q. The other is of magnitude Q. What is the separation between them is equal to 2A. Okay, let me proceed in this way. There's a point P. So the field strength that due to point charge 2Q, it will be E1 towards right. Due to point charge plus Q, E2 will be towards left. So the resultant field at point P should be the difference of that. So E1 is equal to K2Q by 2A minus X square. Then due to E2 will be due to point charge plus Q will be KQ by X square. So I want a point where the resultant field will be 0. Getting this one? There's a condition. Okay, then EP is equal to 0. Let me substitute. And I'll solve for X. I'll expand this, I'll get a quadratic equation. So what is the position? The position, what I get is like between the point charges at a distance of root 5 minus 1a, means from this point charge to at a distance of root 5 minus 1a, the field strength will be 0, that one, not at the midpoint. For 2 identical point charges, exactly at the midpoint, the field strength will be 0. If 2q and plus q, the field strength will be 0 at the midpoint. I think that there's a very important conditions here. When we discuss some problems, no, we need this particular background. What about field anywhere here? Will it be zero? Due to positive point charge plus Q, it will be like this. Due to 2Q, it will be in this direction. Not possible, no? What about here? Due to 2Q, I'll come to this one. Due to plus Q, it will be in this direction. Due to 2Q also, it will be in the same direction. So the field cannot be zero at these points. The net field can be zero only in between them. And what about for this? You can search it. If you take plus 2Q and minus Q, no, the field can be zero at a point other than in between point charges. Here I took plus 2 and Q. So one charge is of magnitude plus 2Q, other is plus Q, where the field will be zero at the in between line joining the point charges, the field will be zero. So here, what is the condition now? Net field will be zero in between line joining the point charges. Only the field can be zero here. If you take plus 2Q minus Q, check it, will not be in between, will be external, that one. Okay, we'll explore that condition also. Let me explore that also. So if it is plus 2Q, minus Q. So what is the separation between them? So where the field will be zero. So I'll call this as 1. This is 2. The field here will be E1. E2 will be like this. So let it be at a distance X. Then the resultant field EP is equal to E1 minus E2. This should be 0. What is E1? E1 will be K 2Q 2A plus X whole square. What about E2? E2 will be KQ by X square. Again, the same mathematics here. So this will be KQ get cancelled. So X square 2X square equal to 2AX whole square. Solving this one, 2X square equal to 4X A square plus X square 4AX. X square minus 4X minus 4A square equal to 0. Okay, now we'll solve this one. This will become quadratic equation for x equal to 4A plus or minus 16A square plus 16A square by 2A. A plus, this will be 16, this will be 4A root 2 by 2. 16 plus 16, 32. 32 will be 16 into 2, so we'll get it. So this will be now, A will come outside. A if I take common, so 2A will come. So 1 plus or minus root 2. Okay, these are the values. So 2A 1 plus root 2 is one value, x equal to 2a, 1 minus root 2. What about this 2a, 1 plus root 2? Okay, root 2 is 1.41. Somewhere else it's possible. X negative 2a minus of root 2. Root 2 is 1.41. So 0 0.4, 0 0.8 x will be. I think this is not possible, no? I'll take it out this one. So where the field will be 0 at a distance of 2a 1 plus root 2 from point charge q, because the x is what I measured from here, x equals 0. Measure from point charge to. Like this, a student has to really analyze where the field will be 0 when identical point charges or different point charges when they are kept it. And then we'll explore the next one, how to express how to find out the electric field strength in vector form. Can we find out the electric field strength in the vector form? So I kept a point charge plus q in a space. It is, and what is the position vector of the point charge? Let it be RA bar. Then I want to find out at point B the electric field strength due to this point charge. And what is the position vector of point B? Will be RB. This will be the position vector of the point charge RB. That one. This is the position vector of RB. So this will be RB. This will be RA. So what is the condition? A point charge Q is kept at a point A, then at point B, the electric field strength due to that point charge has to be determined. Okay, what is the basic our idea? Due to point charge, what is the electric field strength? Equal to KQ by R square. So now what is the direction of E bar? The direction of E bar will be R bar. And what is R cap? Unit vector directed along the R bar. So here we'll write the vector form. RA bar plus R bar should be equal to minus of RB bar. So finally, what is R bar is equal to RB bar minus RA bar. Then KQ this will be. So now what is the, how you define the electric field strength in the vector form? This part will be magnitude into unit vector R cap. What is R cap? Further, we'll write it as R bar by R. R bar by R. Now, KQ by RQ by R. This part is very important. So what is R bar? RB bar minus RA bar. What is R? Mod of RB minus RA whole square. So this will be the vector form of electric field due to a point charge. If a point charge Q is kept in a space with a position vector RA bar, then at position vector RB bar, what is the electric field strength given by this particular formula? Okay, this is about the overall due to point charges, the field, all everything. So I'll have one more condition. If I have 4 point charges numbered like this, how to calculate the resultant force acting on? They're kept at the corners of a square. The point charges where they're kept at the corners of a square here. So how to find out the resultant force acting on individual point charge? Let this be 1, 2, 3, and 4. F12, because they are like charges. F41, F14. Then 1 and 3 will also interact. This will be F13. Similarly here, F23, F42, F34, F43, F32, then F42, F31. Now what can be this angle? 45 degrees. What can be this angle? 45 degrees, because along the diagonals, these forces, this force F13, F31 should act along the diagonal. Similarly, F42 and F42, F24, no, it is, should act along the diagonal. So now we'll write the magnitude, then I'll take the vector sum of all these forces. I'll get the resultant force acting on 1, similarly on 2, similarly on 3, on 4. What do you expect the force acting on individual charge particles should be equal, because all these are identical. Then what is the net force acting on system? Will be 0. Center of mass will not shift. But the individual charge particles will be moving. Center of mass, in fact, will not shift. Delta RCM will be 0. Net force on the system will be 0. We know if net axial force is 0, center of mass will not shift, but individual charge particles will be moving here. So how do this point charge Q will move? It will move along this diagonal. The point charges, it will move in this direction. And this will move in this direction. This will move in this direction. And it will move in this direction. It will expand. The separation between them will increase. And at any instant of time, the separation between 1 and 2 should be equal to separation between 2 and 3. Separation between 4 and 3 should be equal to separation between 1 and 4. Okay, next I brought it another this one, the lines of force, how the lines of force for different types of charges system. So what are this one? There's a positive charge. There's also positive charge, positive charge. If I keep 4 identical positive point charges, then how the lines of force is given by this particular thing. So here the lines of force you can see. Only look at that, the one which are arrows. The other circles are equipotential. Let's not bother. Only look at the lines where the arrows are indicated like this. These are the lines of force. For a 4 identical point charges, if they are kept at the corners of a square, then how the lines of force of system will be of this kind. So what is the field at this point? Resultant field must be 0, exactly at the midpoint. So the lines of force, so how many lines of force I am assuming? 8 lines of force due to each point charge. You see everywhere 8 lines of force is what we assumed it. Oh, I think able to understand. So these are lines of force. Okay, the green color lines for one point charge, I'll show it. These are lines of force. Like this, for individual point charges, we can put it. So if 4 point charges, if they are kept at corners of a square, identical point charges, then this will be the lines of force. Let me write that comment. Four identical kept at corners of a square frame, then this will be the lines of force. So what is it for identical positive point charge? There's a strict condition. So what is the charge here will be positive. I think I can't show in the diagram. Let it be here. Okay, for your benefit. I'll give some color for them. Okay, now I think you are able to. These are the charges. Let me, then I'll indicate the charge on them. It'll be easy for you to, because the charges are not being indicated. Positive charge. Okay, now clear. Everything is visible clearly. This should be the positive charge. This should be the negative charge. And this should be the positive charge. This should be the positive charge. The lines of force are emerging from it. This should be the negative charge. This should be the positive charge. Okay, let me explain using pointer. I'll take some other color. Yeah. Okay, okay. There's a 4-point charges are kept. Now here 3-point charges I kept it. Then how the lines of force? One is positive, negative, other will be positive. This will be the resultant lines of force. So you want to find out the field here. What you should do? You should draw a tangent. The tangent will give the resultant E bar at that particular point. Similarly, you want E bar here, draw a tangent. You want E bar here, draw a tangent. You want E bar here, draw a tangent. 3-point charges of certain magnitudes, if they're kept it, no. So we can definitely, I think this magnitude of charge will be less, this will be more. The magnitude of discharge will be more because more lines of force are there. Here, less lines of force. And now come for this one. I kept a 4-point charges. Look at the magnitude of this: plus Q, plus Q, plus 3Q, minus 3Q. Then the lines of force will be directed in this way. Sir, how you plot this one? Everywhere I should calculate I should estimate the direction of E bar. Then I should join the locus of all those points where E bar will be directed. Then I'll get the lines of force. Or if you know already lines of force, draw a tangent. Suppose I want E bar here. So draw a tangent. They'll give the direction of E bar. No, if we have 3-point charges, positive charge, negative charge, positive charge. Then what are the lines of force? I think is let me show that negative point charge. Hope it will remain. Yeah, come for this one. There's a positive point charge, negative point charge, positive point charge. The force of interaction between the point charges are given by these lines of force. Because the lines of force should originate at positive point charge, should terminate at the negative point charge. So there's one rough idea about how to draw the lines of force. Okay, this is about the basic. Today is about the introduction to the electrostatics using first we started with the basics of point charge. Then from there, how to produce what are the different methods to produce charge. Then we encountered, there we come across the friction. Charges can be produced by rubbing the bodies, then electrostatic induction, then conduction, then Coulomb's law. Then from Coulomb's law in the vector form, then after that we went for superposition principle, then electric field concept, electric field strength, then electric field in vector form, then lines of force. Okay, today's we had all the discussion about this much here. Okay, let me hand up the class. Okay, now in today's class, we had a discussion about we started with the charges, then what is the method of producing the charge on a bodies. Then we went for the Coulomb's law, then the vector form of Coulomb's law, then the electric field strength, then the vector form of electric field strength, then how to calculate the resultant field when point charges are there, then the idea of the lines of force. Now, this was about the basic introduction part of the electrostatics. In tomorrow's class, we'll go for the electric field due to different charged bodies. That'll be the next class. Okay, so we'll meet in next class. Okay, thank you all of you. Okay, bye. See you. Take care.